Um, well, Reverend Al brought up a lot of really important points. One is we have to break through a lot of conspiracy theories. Number one, you can't get it. You would be surprised how that is sticking, and people still believe that this has nothing to do with me. That this is a jet setting disease. This is a cruise ship disease. This is a spring break disease. This is an
I'm gonna be
Asian
honest,
disease.
Charles.
Right.
I was one of the people. I actually believed that. I was like, God has to give us a pass. We have this has to be the one we're gonna get a pass. So I actually am one
Right.
that can say I was guilty for that, and that's one of the reasons why we have to get this message out. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. But the thing that people have to always remember, this is one pandemic. There will be other viruses. There'll be other calamities. They will always settle at the end of the day, no matter how they start, no matter how rich the people were who first affected, no matter if they're medical, whether they're on planes. It will always settle at the end of the day on the most vulnerable population. You will never escape it. And once it stops affecting the wealthy, the most famous, the attention averts. We still have an epidemic right now. I now live in Atlanta. There's an epidemic right now in HIV. We have treatments for it that keeps you from passing it. We have treatments for it that keep you from getting it, and yet it is surging. And but because it's not Rock Hudson anymore, it's not rich white artist in Soho anymore. Nobody seems to care. And so this is what we're going to be facing, which is once it is no longer a daily press conference by Donald Trump. It is no longer a daily press by Cuomo. Once it moves out of New York, out of San Francisco, out of Washington State, and it starts to settle in Alabama, in Mississippi, in I don't know who that is, in wherever, it's just going to be you and it's just going to be us. And we are going to be stuck to deal with it. And the world will have moved on, and Trump will have opened back up the government in some big bang way, and we will be stuck with this. And so we have to figure out, what do we do with this knowledge. I had someone today message me to say,
Okay, so as you were listening, hi, I'm Jewel. Hi, I'm Jewel. Welcome to the third episode, or welcome to another episode of the series that I'm putting together in regards to the Revolt town hall that they had live on YouTube that included the likes of Angela Rye, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Reverend Al Sharpton, Sean Combs, and Van Jones, just to name a few. And as you've seen in my previous videos, I've been basically feeding you different clips and commenting on some of the information that they've been talking about as our leaders in the entertainment industries, and they are the faces that most people see on TV in regards to the Black community. But before I start giving my suggestions to mobilize the necessary resources, I wanted to play a couple of clips that got me to look into the who's who of the government so that I could have a clear understanding of the individuals in my local government here in Georgia that would be most important in getting action steps activated. And this clip definitely sheds some light on an issue that Charles was honing in on regarding the fact that once the virus is no longer affecting people of a non-Black community, once it is no longer affecting the wealthy, then it just becomes a second thought and people move on. And we as a people will still be left to deal with it. We'll still have the cases. We'll still have the need for treatment. We'll still have the behavior. And so as I was listening to this, what was going through my mind is, why is it that we are forgetting we still have some power to stop them from forgetting about us? They remember us when it's election time. So we need to make sure they remember us even when it's not an election time, that they're thinking about their districts all the time. Because you got to remember, they are servants, supposedly servants of the people, but that's debatable. But our tax dollars that we're working to earn, and then we pay into the kitty that pays those individuals, are supposed to be why they're serving us, to help be our voice, to get up there and fight for us, legislate for us, and make us better people in some of the legislation that they're doing. So I want to finish listening to this, and then I want to go over a piece of article that Charles did in the New York Times. So let's finish up here first, please.
Stop making this a black thing, because no, if you do that, they're going to stop caring. First of all, I can't make anything. I'm following data. But number two, think about how damning it is to say that if it's just about you, no one will care.
Okay. And we're going to leave it right there. No one will care. If we make it about us, no one will care. And that is some powerful information. So this particular article that you see that I've brought up here on the screen was done April 12th, 2020. And the title of the article is Focus the COVID-19 Fight in Black Cities. So it was more than just a article about what's happening. It was also considered an opinion open letter. And basically what he's saying here is, to the leaders of our free society, free world thinking society, figure out if majority black cities are suffering more than others, and if so, focus a significant part of the fight against the coronavirus, both resources and research there. So as he points out, New York City released some data that revealed a disproportionate impact on both black and Hispanic people. Black people make up 22% of the population of New York City, but represent 28% of the deaths from the virus. Hispanics make up 29% of the city, but represent 34% of the deaths. New Orleans, Milwaukee, Chicago, where black people represent 70 to 80% of the deaths, though their percentages of the population don't come close to that. And as you see down here, we urgently need more data. We need to know if what we are seeing is early data from majority black cities is a pattern or not. Every city, state, and the federal government must gather and publicize the data now. There are more than 1,200 majority black cities in America. It may be that these majority black cities simply have more essential workers who are also black. There may be more poverty. There may be more people without cars and depending on public transportation. And basically what he's trying to say is what the same theme I've heard in the last few videos from a majority of different people. And that's why I'm putting this whole series together, because you can hear a common theme that public transportation could be a huge factor in why this is spreading so rapidly in these condensed cities. And why is it public transportation? Because people in the black community don't have the luxury or the finances to sit down and stay in place. Okay? But we also, as you heard, some people are not taking it seriously. Some people are not taking or looking at it like it can't happen to me because I'm black, which we see that that's a myth. But somewhere the communication is getting lost and people are not getting the message with all this technology we have, social media, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all this social outlets and ways to communicate with their mobile phones, instant messaging, and so forth. It still amazes me that we as a nation have issues with communication, even now. And the only thing I can basically blame it on is that people just don't want to listen. People just don't want to listen. So I brought this chart up here to basically highlight African American employment between the ages of 25 and 64. And as you can see, here it shows the graph, and green is employed in the armed forces, and you have the blue that's employed, the red unemployed, and not in the labor force. So, Black American men, 27% not in the labor force, 66% employed, 6% unemployed. Now, of course, this was done by the Bureau of Statistics in 2017, so that has changed as of now. I'm quite sure those numbers look drastically different. But as you see here, also, women, 25% unemployed. They're not far behind. Not far behind as far as unemployed, or excuse me, 25% not in the labor force, 5% unemployed, and 70% employed. Okay, versus looking at the rest of America, you've got a 79% and a 69% respectively as far as being employed. But this information highlights some, you have a population which is not taking up a lot, but at the same time, they're dominating, absolutely dominating, being ravaged by this particular virus. So, as we move forward, I wanted to bring up another video here, and let me cue this up real quick. Okay. And we're basically going to be listening to the epidemiologist known as Camera Jones. And I really liked what she had to say in regards to defining racism here. So we're going to bring this video over, and let's just, kind of bring that down. All right. And let's take a listen to Kamara Jones and what
part of the thing is, I had to learn how to say the word epidemiologist to be able to keep up with Cameron Jones. You got a beautiful last name. I love your last name. It's a beautiful last name. But we have epidemiologists who understand the science of how this virus is moving and what we can do to protect ourselves and why it's so dangerous. And she loves us, cares about us, and knows us intimately. Help us understand what's going on and what we can do to protect ourselves.
Okay, so I want to say, first of all, that so much has been said, but on the racism piece, if you were to ask me in one sentence, what is going on here today, COVID-19 has exposed, again, but exposed in a very stark fashion, US racism, right? Because the whole myth that if this virus, so nobody on this earth in December 19 was immune to this virus. If there were equal opportunity, if there were equal distribution of risks, then no matter how you sliced and diced the population, you wouldn't see anybody popping out with more of it, getting it more, or dying from it more. So this is clear evidence that we have an unequal society. We keep being reminded of that with Katrina, with Flint. We keep being reminded of that. But the reason that doctors like me and epidemiologists who see that Black people have been dying more often and earlier, we've been trying to sound this alarm for a long time, but the general public cannot turn their eye away right now because the bodies are piling up so fast that they can't normalize it and they can't ignore it. But the risk to me is that, yes, now we can say racism, and maybe some other people might even believe that racism exists for a moment. What we need to do is keep racism and anti-racism on the agenda. So the things that I can add to this conversation that's been going on before is to give a definition of racism which will clarify for us how it is causing these excess Black deaths. Racism is a system that does two things. It structures opportunity and it assigns value. And it does both of those things based on so-called race, which is not biology. It is not behavior. It is not culture. It is the social interpretation of how one looks in a race-conscious society. And this system of structuring opportunity and assigning value has three impacts in general, right? When we do talk about racism in this country, then we point that, okay, yes, it is unfairly disadvantaging some individuals and communities. But we have to recognize that every unfair advantage has its reciprocal unfair advantage. So racism is also unfairly advantaging other individuals and communities. That's the whole issue of unearned white privilege that we hardly ever talk about because it makes some people, especially some white folks, uncomfortable. I say if you feel uncomfortable, you need to lean into that discomfort, because the edge of our comfort for all of us is our growing edge. But the point that we often miss, all of us, is that racism is sapping the strength of the whole society through the waste of human resources.
Okay, so I definitely admire her definition of that, and how she was contextualizing what racism looks like when one part of the society is benefiting, another part of society is not benefiting, and that's a double-edged sword. And we see that constantly popping up in situations such as this, where something that has the equal opportunity to affect every person on the planet. This particular thing doesn't understand color. But what happens is when some communities do not have access to quality health care, they do not have quality earning jobs, or they do not have housing that is of substantial living conditions, and they're living on top of each other like sardines, then what happens is the spread of the disease goes through that community like wildfire, because the conditions in which that community is living in are substandard to the other side of the population, who has the luxury of spreading out, isolating, and earning income even when they're not employed, giving them the opportunity to step out of the situation and step away from the risk of infection. So after watching this clip and the other clips, I just felt compelled to look into the players within my local government and federal government that I felt I needed to be aware of, and what are they doing to help the situation. So at this time, what I want to do is I want to bring up a couple websites where I researched and identified, let's get this up here, and identified some, nope, not that one. You gotta love it when you think you're ready, you're not ready, but you always think you're ready. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. We don't need that, and we don't need that distracting us. So let's start over here. I always believe that you start locally, identify within your immediate circle, and then circle out and widen the circle. And that's how I do my research. And what better way to start my research, which is in my own backyard. So Georgia, we have what's called the Georgia General Assembly, and it might be called something different, but I'm hoping that by showing you the process that I went through to identify who's who within my local government, that you will take the time. And if you're watching this video, you have obviously access to the internet, because YouTube is on the internet. So you have access to the internet. Now's the time to dig into the internet, go beyond YouTube, go beyond Facebook, go beyond Instagram, go beyond all the social media, push past all the distractions, and take a moment as you're sitting at home trying to figure out what the next steps are here's something to just enlighten yourself and key yourself in to where you can begin. So, but like I was saying, Georgia has what's called the Georgia General Assembly, one of the largest state legislations in the nation. The Georgia General Assembly, composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate, meets from January until late March to set the state's annual operating budget and to propose laws on a variety of topics from education to environmental protection. By collaborating in communities and meeting with constituents, the representatives and senators contribute to the state's health and growth. And so that's where I began. So I come down here to this link, and if you're from Georgia, I'm going to have these links throughout the series so that if you want to go down into the notes, click on them and you too can find out your district. But this basically, clicking on this link, it took me to some more definitions and feedback and how they got established and so forth. The part that I was trying to get to is House committees. And because most local governments are modeled after our federal government and vice versa. So within every state government, you know, your governor is like your president. Okay. We have a president of the United States, but we have a governor that goes, you know, he's the top guy in your state. And then, of course, you're going to have, you know, the players and so forth. And then just like in federal government and the Senate, in the Senate and in Congress, you have committees. And those committees are assigned specific tasks in order to create legislation, like it said, that will go into place to help the constituents within the state and to help with the budgeting. So after listening to those videos, my curiosity was, well, who would be in charge of the health and wellness? What committees? What individuals? And when you click on these, they give you a definition. But I zoned in on two of them. Public safety and homeland security was one. I also zoned in on the health and human services. Human relations could also be one. But I believe, based on what I'm hearing, that the Health and Human Services Committee would probably be my first point of attention of the who's who of people. And all these people, if I'm not mistaken, are elected members. And I'm going to be digging into that. But it'll tell you down, like it does here, it tells you down here, history and duties. This committee is responsible for legislation that affects the conditions of the safety regulations and social services for the citizens of Georgia. This committee also addresses the legal areas surrounding medical professionals as well as medical provisions. So here is a starting point right here of the who's who. Who's going to be legislating going forward to help with dealing with this particular situation and creating a long-term plan that will be effective. It can obviously be altered as it needs to be, but when something like this breaks out and creates such a devastation in the community, that plan goes into effect and people line up like they're supposed to. Because if you think about it, you know, the incentive here is when people go to work, they earn an income. That income, part of that goes into taxes. Okay? You pay your state taxes, you pay your federal taxes. So those taxes go into the pool, which help pay for these particular individuals and certain services and so forth. So if I'm paying taxes into the system should be helping me so that I can continue to help the system. But if the system is not helping me, if the system is disproportionate, and if the system has decided that I'm not as important because of my revenue or because of my race, then we have a problem. Either one, we need to vote people in who takes my issues and considerations into effect and works towards making a long-term change. If not, they need to move out, move on. But these are things that our leaders like Killer Mike have been talking about. Know who your local government is. Know who's behind the legislation. Know who you're voting in, and know who you need to vote out. Now, I live in a red state, and there are a few Democrats on these committees, but this is a predominantly red state, and most of the southern states are, and it has been almost impossible to flip them to blue. We are seeing some purple pop up, but blue has been, almost impossible to get. And had we got Stacey Abrams in the picture, that would have definitely been a plus for Georgia. So what I'm hoping is that you take this information and duplicate it. Now, the next group I wanted to look at was Congress. Now, we've been seeing a lot about Congress because Congress is the purse strings of this country. And of course, they've been signing different bills to throw money at this situation. And as I said before, money is not going to completely fix the problem. It is definitely a plus. And you definitely need money as a tool to get what you need. Yet, it's not going to fix the problem. But I wanted to know, okay, now that I got my local government, where's my Congress people? Where are they? So I came to this website, congress.gov, and this is for all of Congress. And you can scroll down here. They don't make it easy to find. I think that this right here should be at the top, but it's not. It's in the middle of the page. And as you see here, current members of Congress, show current members of Congress, and you can select by state. You've got here House leadership. You got here Nancy Pelosi. As you can see, this is an old picture of Nancy. Nancy, you need to update this picture. Okay, moving on. And then you see the Senate leadership, and you've got here Vice President Mike Pence and Mitch McConnell. So, but let's click on my state of Georgia. You scroll down, and you click on here in Georgia, and you say, show me my members. Boom. And here we are. We see a list of all the Congress members that were voted in. I voted last time, and I've been voting. So I helped vote some of these people in. And these people, as you can see here, I'll stop at Representative John Lewis here in Georgia, and he controls District number 5. Well, what is District number 5? Where does that area, what does that cover? So another website to identify your districts, you can go over here to Google, and you can type in Wikipedia. I'm going to show you Georgia. Let me just type it in and get my fingers right so you know how to do it. Type in Georgia district map. You see it already comes up. Okay, so you click on that, and it'll take you into some images. But if you scroll down, you'll see here Wikipedia, which I like that one. That's why I clicked on it. And it brings up your district map. And it'll help you in your state identify. So if you can, you might not be able to see it here. Let me flip over and just kind of show you. Might be able to zoom it in a little bit. But if you see here, it shows in these little numbers. There's number 9 district, number 14, 11. There's number 5. Okay. So let me see if I can bring that up. No, cannot. But as you can see there was district number 5, which Lewis handles. And there's 2, and there's 8, and there's 1. But this information is very helpful. And you can go through your list, and you can see what district. Then you can identify that person. And as you see here, you click on the link, and it'll give you even more information. How to contact that person, their website, the House, 11th, 114th, or 116th. They got into office 2015 to the present, and what party they're in, Republican. So I bring this information to you because this is how we become empowered. This is how we become stronger, through knowledge. by educating ourselves, finding out the who's who, and watching them, paying attention, registering to vote. These are all a part of being an adult, putting on our big people pants and paying attention. We've got a plethora of information at our fingertips with our cell phones, with iPads, and with computers and laptops. So there's no reason why we as a people can't get this information, understand it, and just pay attention. And that you don't have to become a nerd at it like myself, but I hope that this video will get you started. In the next video, I'm going to be wrapping things up, but I've got a couple more videos, clips I want to show you, and a couple more articles I want to talk about. But I hope that this has been helpful. If you like it, give me a like and share, comment, all that good stuff. All right. Peace. See you on the next video.